This is Tim Credeur from Gladiators Academy in Lafayette, and this is one of my longtime friends and one of our head coaches at Gladiators Academy Lafayette, Fulgium, otherwise known as the Clown Boxer Coach. Just kidding. He's a great guy. He's got over 50 MMA fights, and we've been friends and training partners for like going on 10 years almost, you know, a really long time. But I just wanted to go over some things that I think I see in MMA that sometimes make it harder for the ground and pounder. And there's a jiu-jitsu principle that we use to make me stronger and expose me less that I feel should be applied to MMA. So sometimes I see guys who are really, really good grapplers, really good ground and wrestlers, or really good jiu-jitsu guys, and then when they get on the mat, their ground and pound is terrible, right? So I feel like one concept people should pay attention to is if you can't punch people standing up, you're not going to be able to punch people on the ground, right? Because generating power, especially like in boxing and kickboxing, has a lot to do with your feet and generating power from the ground and using the power you generate from the ground to your feet, to your knees, to your hips, to your upper body. And that's really how good strikers punch and kick effectively. And if you can't do that standing up, it's going to be very hard to effectively ground and pound people once you're on the ground, because when you're on the ground, it's even harder to punch and kick effectively. I mean, not kick, but punch effectively. So if you're a grappler, I would advise you train and striking. Not because you necessarily want to keep the fight on the feet, but because when you go to the ground, the dynamics of punching and generating power are the same, regardless of whether you're on the ground or standing up. There may be some subtle differences, but you understand what I'm saying. None of us would disagree. If Mike Tyson were in your guard, I bet you'd figure out how to knock your head off your shoulders, right? And why is that? Well, Mike Tyson could punch from any angle because he's learned how to generate a lot of power in a very small space, and those principles translate to ground fighting. So if you're a ground fighter doing MMA, get a good boxing, kickboxing coach and learn how to punch, because it's going to translate when you get somebody on the ground. But what I want to go over today is a principle that we use in jiu-jitsu of keeping my elbows tight, right? We always tell that to our white belts here in our Road to Blue Belt program. Elbows tight to your body for a couple reasons. One, I expose myself less, you know, to key locks and kimuras and arm bars and all those types of things. I can also use my hands to defend my neck and my face when my elbows are tight, but it also makes you much stronger. I'm much stronger when my elbows are close to my body. Whereas when my elbows trail away from my body, I don't have a lot of power with my shoulders and my back. I've lost a lot of that power, right? Think about lifting. When I'm doing overhead lifts and stuff, my elbows are close when I'm going to generate force. Once I get here, you know, that's the end of the force generation. I got to come back down and then generate more force from elbows close to my body. And we do that the same in jiu-jitsu from the guard, elbows tight. Well, I believe in a principle of doing the same thing from ground and pound. So I'm going to go over two positions and how I position my arms to create a very difficult scenario for the bottom guy from half guard and from full guard, but also to keep me very strong, to give me punching opportunities, and to allow my partner who's on the bottom, who may be from a jiu-jitsu background or a grappling background, to be in an uncomfortable situation and hopefully start making some mistakes so I can see some openings. I believe in MMA, you know, even though I do jiu-jitsu, judo, I'm a grappler, I believe if you want to be effective on the ground in MMA, it's much easier when you start punching them in their face. And that could be because I'm white trash, but in any case, whenever I'm on the ground and I start punching people in the body and punching them in the head, they start to do things that they wouldn't normally do in a grappling scenario. And that opens up a lot of holes that I can use my grappling techniques to expose. So I always encourage lots of punching on the ground and then use their mistakes and their frustration and panic to get you to better positions. So let's just look at what I'm talking about from the guard. So when I'm in my guard, some things that I see people do that I think are not so good are either grabbing my opponent this way or keeping my head tight but getting my butt up, which gives my opponent the ability to move his hips. Yeah, and he can make hooks and sweep me, and yeah, this all gets bad for me. But at the same time, when I start doing this, it kind of also gives him a little bit of opportunity to start grabbing and pushing away and feet on my hips and all these types of things. So there's an intermediary area that I prefer to stay in. I don't want my head too close, but then again, I don't want my head too far where I allow him movement. So what I do is I keep my hips close. I try to keep his lower back off the mat. So I walk my hips in just a little bit. And if you notice, like Christian's hips are almost off the mat in my lap. Now, my feet are gonna spread a little and I get face to face with my forearms in the divots of his shoulders. And I stay face to face and don't give him head control. From here, Christian's not only extremely uncomfortable, right? Because he has a gigantic rhinoceros on top of him looking into his eyeballs, but another reason is because his arms are not as capable. When I'm in this position with my elbows, it's hard for him to control my head. It's hard for him to armbar and triangle. And I can roll my elbows, forearms across the face, and punch and get back to this position. I don't allow head control, I don't allow wrist control, and I don't allow him to move his hips. My hips are driving forward and my forearms are pressuring his shoulders to the mat. I notice how I kind of separate my elbows just a little bit, but they're still close to my body where I can be strong. From here, I can generate a lot of power by reaching and punching. Now, if you're a puncher who punches this way, you should retire, okay? But if you know how to punch, if you've been boxing, and from here I can generate decent power, this type of position can effectively manage the guard without giving them the opportunity to submit me. And then I'm back into the position. Everybody understand what I'm saying with these frames? Now, I'm gonna show another position where we do the same type of thing from half guard. So from half guard, a lot of what a lot of jiu-jitsu practitioners and grapplers do is this. They hold really tight and they want to get the pass and I don't think this is the most effective scenario, okay? Here's what I believe. I'm going to do the same thing. One arm goes across his forearm, across his throat. I grab his shoulder, my elbow's tight, and my other elbow goes in his hip. And I hold Christian on his back here. It's very tough for Christian to grab my head, control my head, get underneath me, and I can, boom, back to the position, boom, boom, back to the position, boom, back to the position. And the whole time, Christian's extremely uncomfortable, feels very exposed. I'm giving him no options. I'm putting his back on the mat with a frame that's strong because my elbows are tight to my body. My sternum is right above his center line. And every time I see an opening, I just touch it, boom, I'm back. Boom, boom, and I'm back. Boom, and I'm back. And I'm using the exact same principle. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, sir. I'm using the exact same principle that we use in jiu-jitsu to keep my elbows close, be patient, find openings, and use my punches like putting pennies in a piggy bank. I'm not trying to land home run shots. I'm just hitting him all about those soft spots of his face, force him to make mistakes, and when he does, then I can capitalize by mounting or passing or going to a more dominant position. I know it seemed like Christian and I were a little bit rough. That's my fault. I usually am pretty rough. We got in trouble one time before one of my fights in the UFC. I was getting ready in the back, and we were kind of light sparring with gloves on. Christian was light sparring, and I head kicked him in the face with no shin guards. And one of the other coaches at the UFC got mad at me, and I think I yelled at him. It was crazy. We still won though. Yeah. So I love Christian. We're a little real sometimes. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please post in the comments. Frames, elbows tight, and find small openings to land good shots. If you don't have a good striking coach, find one. Learn how to punch and develop power from close range. Thanks for watching.